Hello everyone and welcome to the grand finale of the Budget Rally Tournament. If my voice sounds a bit off, that's because this is being recorded right after I cured myself from a sickness. I don't have anything else to say, so let's get into it. But before we do, let's just give ourselves a recap of how each finalist managed to make it here. So first off, there's Colony of Birchmen. And thanks to the truck getting first place in round 1, she did not have to deal with the redemption round. There isn't really much to say for round 2, considering that she literally got first place in the first 20 seconds of the race. Round 3, however, was a lot more eventful, as she had to fight Ferrari's 959 for the entirety of the race. And even though she managed to pull a last-second overtake, round 3 was not a cakewalk for her, and neither was round 4, as she was getting cock-blocked a lot in the first half of the race. That is, until she eventually managed to make it through the pack on the 3rd lap. And even though she got beaten by Julie Canotto in the semi-finals, that still didn't stop her from making it to the finals though. And then we have Drip KA, who may or may not have the most eventful run in the tournament. And because he only finished 6th in round 1, he was sent to the redemption round. And after a very eventful race, managed to place 3rd and make it back to the tournament. And round 2 was not good for Drip KA, as he only managed to get 4th in his respective race. Then in round 3, ended up in a grid full of cars faster than him and managed to luckily dodge a bullet and not get eliminated there. After that, things finally started to work out for Drip KA in round 4 as he managed to gain a 2nd place, finishing right behind the truck. And with all odds against him, he managed to also make it out of the semi-finals alive, allowing him to make it to the finals when nobody believed he could. And Fancy Rex's run in the tournament was also pretty interesting, as he was managing to lead the way till getting overtaken by the truck. But despite that, he still managed to place 2nd. And so did he get one in round 2, although Alan Coder was the one in 1st this time. And in round 3, after he overtook Bowtie, he was pretty much just chilling on the podium alongside Xolstis and Ryuhei SVT. Round 4, however, was a lot more eventful for Fancy Rec. And out of all the people that appeared in his respective race, I think he was actually the one who changed positions the most, gaining yet another podium. And then after a very intense battle in the semi-finals, he managed to prevent being eliminated in the semi-finals again. And then there's Ferrari, who despite being one of the fastest cars in the tournament, had a very underwhelming performance overall. But that's not always a bad thing though. Anyways, in round 1 he only got 2nd place as he got beaten by Julie Canotto. Then in round 2, the universe did everything in its power to make sure that Ferrari did not finish 1st. Yeah, there isn't really any better way to put it. Then in round 3, he would get his 1st victory, if it wasn't for the fact that Colony of Birchmen overtook him in the very last second. Then in round 4, his performance was just not good. But luckily for him, it wasn't enough to get him out. And the semi-finals was where Ferrari finally managed to come into his own, getting 1st place and making it to the finals as well. And Julie Canotto is also here. In round 1, he, like I said earlier, managed to beat Ferrari and take the 1st place away from him. And then he gained another 2nd place in round 2, but not because he was fast, but rather because he ended up in a race with a massive spread in performance between his opponents. In round 3, he didn't really do that well, as he finished the race in a 3rd place, which could have been mine. And after a long-fought battle for the podium in round 4, he lost against me, but won against Alan Coder, getting 3rd place and then getting 1st in the semi-finals. meaning that he needed to get a 50 horsepower nerf, which everybody was pissed at me for, but it's what had to be done. And finally, we have Arcade. In round 1, he managed to get a podium despite his odd car choice. And given he actually appeared in the same massive spread in performance race as Julie Canotto, he still managed to get a second place to the surprise of most. And after overtaking Expert in round 3, he was just chilling in the middle of everything, I guess. And round 4 was a real pain for Arcade in the Crossbow R, as he was constantly on the verge of being eliminated in his respective race. But he luckily managed to make it through to the semi-finals, in which he was also struggling. And despite Arcade having all of this stuff slowing him down, he actually managed to beat both me and Pin into the finals. Anyways, now that we acknowledged how every finalist made it here, it's time for the grand finale to begin! So here's the thing, I let my fellow friends from the Discord server decide which 2 tracks they wanted to see in the finale alongside Fisherman's Ranch. And yeah, I think it was pretty obvious that Barcelona was gonna be one of the most voted. So yeah, we're gonna be racing 4 laps around Barcelona Rallycross. Anyways, enough of yapping, let's get on with the race already. And here they go across the start line. As you can see, Drip KA and Ferrari managed to overtake Arcade from the get-go. And so does Fancy Wreck as the Crossbow R goes wide. But then Arcade manages to overtake Fancy Wreck back. Anyways, we make it across this corner and into the jump as Julie Canotto manages to overtake Fancy Wreck. Meanwhile, Colony of Birchman is currently sitting in last place as she could not find an overtaking opportunity just yet. And while she tries to do that, Ferrari manages to pull away from Drip KA, who at the moment is trying not to get overtaken by Arcade or Julie Canotto. And we'll see how that goes as they all make it to the switchback, where Drip KA and Arcade go a little wide. Meanwhile, Fancy Wreck is in the last grid as, just like Colony of Birchman, he is unable to find an overtaking opportunity. But given that we are currently only 2 laps into the race, things still might take a turn. Anyways, we now make it across this corner as Arcade goes a little wide, allowing Julie Canotto to overtake him. And that also gave Fancy Wreck a chance to overtake, but unfortunately he didn't succeed. And I guess Drip KA will now have to deal with Julie Canotto as he is right behind him. And as Ferrari makes it to the switchback, his gap over everyone just keeps growing. But while he is busy doing nothing worthy of talking about, Drip KA is trying to hold off Julie Canotto. And Fancy Wreck is busy catching up to Arcade, which apparently doesn't seem to be so easy for him. But that statement becomes completely irrelevant as he manages to catch up to Arcade as the 3rd lap begins. And while he is on a hunt for an overtake, the Crossbow R is busy getting cock-blocked by the 400R, which managed to overtake the Evo 6. As Julie Canotto now makes it over the jump, now trying to catch up to Ferrari, who's busy doing absolutely nothing that's noteworthy. Meanwhile, further in the back, Drip KA is currently in 3rd place as Fancy Wreck is trying to overtake Arcade. And as he makes it to the tarmac section, he fails as Arcade manages to pull away from him. Still, his overtaking attempts weren't as bad as Colony of Birchman's were, as she did not find a single overtaking opportunity, and rightfully so. Meanwhile, in the front, Julie Canotto's mission to catch up to Ferrari gets more and more intense as the 4th and final lap begins now. In the meantime, Drip KA is still on the podium and Fancy Wreck actually managed to overtake Arcade, who now has to deal with not getting overtaken by the truck. And now he heads off into the jump as the battle between these four is getting really close. And so, they all make it to the tarmac section as Colony of Birchmen is currently trying to overtake Arcadely, but unfortunately fails as the truck goes wide into the sand trap, causing it to lose a bit of time. In the meantime, Drip KA and Fancy Wreck are still battling against each other for the podium. While in the front, it looks like Ferrari was unable to hold off Julie Canotto from overtaking him, which means that he places first, while Ferrari has to settle for second. And these two make it to the finish line as well, as Drip KA goes wide, allowing Fancy Wreck to pull a last-second overtake on him, claiming third place, while Drip KA is fourth, Arcadely is fifth, and Colony of Birchmen is surprisingly last. To determine the ultimate winner, we're gonna be using a point system. A point system which I definitely did not reuse from Tuning Village. So first place gets number of points equal to the amount of racers in the finale, and we subtract 1 point as the positions get lower. It's really simple and very easy to remember. Anyways, let's move on to the second race, which is being held at Colorado Springs, the other most voted track. Anyways, let's get to it. And before you ask, yes, the grid order is based on points. Anyways, we now start the race as Colony of Birchmen zooms off to try to make up for finishing in last place, while Drip KA and Ferrari instantly manage to overtake Arcadely, taking the podium away from him, while Julie Canotto and Fancy Wreck are currently in the back of the grid. And now we head off into the temporary downhill as Ferrari slides, allowing Fancy Wreck to overtake him. But then Ferrari manages to overtake him back, and Julie Canotto also overtakes the Impreza. And now they head off into the thumbnail of the entries corner, where Drip KA gets overtaken by Ferrari and then manages to overtake him back, as Ferrari alongside Fancy Wreck and Julie Canotto are still attempting to overtake him. As for Arcadely, I guess I was wrong about them taking the podium away from him. And now he heads off into the great jump as Drip KA seems to be winning against Ferrari as of right now. Meanwhile, Julie Canotto has managed to overtake Fancy Wreck, who's now in last place, and now tries to catch back up but fails as Julie Canotto manages to successfully zoom off. And so, Ferrari makes it across the annoying jumps and into the I'm blind section as he is still struggling to overtake Drip KA. And in the front, Arcadely has managed to build a decent gap over everyone else, and Colony of Birchmen's just chilling in first place. But given this was only the first lap, things still might change. And so, across the fake pits they go, and now they head off into the finish line to start the second lap. And yeah, you can clearly tell that Ferrari is still failing to overtake Drip KA, while Drip KA himself is failing to catch up to Arcadely. And not much proceeds to change as they go over the jump maybe, while Fancy Wreck in the Impreza is unfortunately falling behind. And I think Arcadely's actually managing to keep up with Colony of Birchmen to the surprise of everyone. And so they now both go into here as the thumbnail of the entries corner is up ahead, as nothing proceeds to change on Drip KA's end, as he is still managing to hold off both Ferrari and Julie Canotto. Unfortunately, his Evo 6 goes a little wide on this corner, giving both of them an opportunity to overtake the Evo, which for them was a must-take. And now Drip KA is just sitting in the back of the grid with Fancy Wreck, as Ferrari and Julie Canotto are now off to catch up to Arcadely. And unfortunately for the Evo and the Impreza, the great jump doesn't make things any easier, while Julie Canotto has managed to overtake Ferrari and now is off to catch up to Arcadely on the annoying jumps. And he manages to do just that as Ferrari overtakes him back, but unfortunately smacks into the sidewall right after, which caused him to lose positions to Julie Canotto and RK Adley and get overtaken by Drip KA. But unfortunately for Fancy Wreck, that was not enough for him to overtake, meaning that he is still sitting in last place. Meanwhile, Julie Canotto overtakes RK Adley and now is off to catch up to Colony of Birchman as the third and final lap begins. And RK Adley now has to defend the podium against Drip KA and Ferrari, as they are successfully managing to catch up to him. But the same cannot be said about Fancy Wreck, however. And so, Ferrari's getting cock-blocked by someone like usual. Except now, the someone in question is Drip KA. Even though that was not Drip KA's intention. I think what he was actually trying to do was catch up to RK Adley. In the meantime, Julie Canotto manages to catch up to Colony of Birchman as they make it to the thumbnail of the entries corner. And unfortunately, the truck does a little mistake, giving Julie Canotto an opportunity to overtake, meaning that the 400R is now first, while the F-150 falls down to second. Drip KA, on the other hand, is still yet to catch up to RK Adley, alongside Ferrari, who's right behind him. As for Fancy Wreck, given he's last here, he's gonna need to go all out in the next race if he even wants to have a chance of not finishing 6th overall. Meanwhile, Colony of Birchman is failing to compete against Julie Canotto, as the annoying section is only helping him build a gap over her. Meanwhile, Drip KA and Ferrari finally managed to catch up to RK Adley. They now just need an overtaking opportunity to go along with it. And I guess doing that was no problem for Drip KA. But will Ferrari overtake? I guess we'll find out at the finish line. Speaking of which, with no sign of anyone catching up to him, Julie Canotto finishes first. And Colony of Birchman manages to make up for the last race by placing second. And it looks like Ferrari's overtake was unsuccessful, as Drip KA is third, RK Adley takes fourth, he settles for fifth, and Fancy Wreck is in dead last. And with the second race over, here are the results, and now let's move on to the third and final race, which is being held at the Nordschleife of Rally, Fisherman's Ranch. And with that being said, let's get into the race that'll determine everything. Starting off strong for the Impreza as Fancy Wreck manages to overtake RK Adley right away. And now we head off into this corner as Colony of Birchman manages to do the exact same thing, just not as quickly. And so, RK Adley slides as he tries to prevent others from overtaking him. Meanwhile, Ferrari is currently in last place as he got overtaken by Julie Canotto. Anyways, Fancy Wreck gets a little unstable at this jump but manages to hold it. But the same can't be said about Drip KA, however, as he did the exact same thing, causing him to lose positions to Julie Canotto and Ferrari. And now they're trying to pull an overtake on RK Adley, who, just like Fancy Wreck, is in desperate need of points. And so they head off across the uphill section as Colony of Birchman is trying to catch up to Fancy Wreck. And while that is happening, Julie Canotto managed to catch up to RK Adley. And Ferrari is not doing very well as Drip KA is not giving up without a fight. And so, as they make it to the next corner, RK Adley slides a little bit, allowing Julie Canotto to catch up to him. And as they make it to the very next jump, Julie Canotto and the 400R unfortunately do not succeed at overtaking RK Adley despite him literally sitting out in the open. Meanwhile in the front, being honest, I'm kinda shocked that Colony of Birchman hasn't managed to catch up to the Impreza yet. I mean, it kinda looks like it did on this corner, but I don't think that's really the case. Anyways, it looks like Julie Kanoto has managed to overtake Arcadely and is now ready to turn the two-way battle for first place into a three-way battle. Oh, and I don't know if you saw it, but Ferrari actually managed to overtake Drip KA. Anyways, we now made it to the scariest part of the track as Colony of Birchmen managed to catch up to Fancy Wreck. But that won't matter if the truck doesn't survive the jumps that are up ahead. And so, Fancy Wreck in the Impreza 22B goes to the said jump, lifts off the ground, and luckily sticks the landing. And same goes for Colony of Birchmen and Julie Kanoto. Followed by Arcadely and oh my gosh, Ferrari spun! Ferrari spun! Which allowed Drip KA to overtake him and take the 5th place back. And as he makes it to the next corner, Ferrari's probably like, "What? This is an outrage! Restart the race!" Anyways, while Ferrari is busy crying about his bad performance, Julie Kanoto manages to catch up to Fancy Wreck, who's now been overtaken by Colony of Birchmen. And by the background music alone, you can already tell things are starting to get real. And so, they make it into the greatest jump of all time, as Fancy Wreck is busy making sure he doesn't lose the 2nd place to Julie Kanoto. Meanwhile, Arcadely is kinda stuck at 4th place as Drip KA is not catching up to him, nor is he catching up to Julie Kanoto. While Ferrari now has a lot of ground to cover up. And being honest with you viewers, I wasn't expecting the grid order to be this. And so, Julie Kanoto makes it to the final major section of the track as Fancy Wreck is not willing to give up 2nd place. The Impreza needs these points. And while that is happening, Colony of Birchmen is busy building a gap over them. And as she makes it to the downhill jump, she is a little unstable but manages to make it stick. And same goes for these two and Arcadely, who is struggling to keep up. As for Drip KA, if Ferrari manages to actually catch back up to him, he's gonna be in grave danger. Speaking of which, how far back is Ferrari? Oh, he's still quite far behind, but he's catching up steadily. Anyways, Julie Kanoto and Fancy Wreck cross the finish line as the 2nd lap begins, which may or may not just be the least eventful part of the finale. And so, Fancy Wreck makes it to this corner as he continues to successfully hold off Julie Kanoto. And things are starting to get more heated as Fancy Wreck himself makes it to the jump section. And with this big of a gap, I'm sure Colony of Birchmen's gonna finish first. And while she is building up a gap, Fancy Wreck is still successfully holding off Julie Kanoto. But the comfort of finishing 2nd unfortunately ends for him as he makes one single mistake, which allowed Julie Kanoto to take the 2nd place away from him. But hey, he's still on the podium though. Meanwhile, Arcadely is trying to make sure that Drip KA does not catch up to him. And Ferrari is doing literally everything in his power to try to catch back up. But unfortunately for him, he still has a long way to go. As Drip KA, like I said earlier, refuses to give up. And while Ferrari tries to do that, Arcadely's trying to catch up to Fancy Wreck. Don't know why since he's so far ahead. And while Fancy Wreck makes it to the jump, Julie Kanoto manages to catch up to Colony of Birchmen. And so, they make it into the downward spiral thingy corners, as Julie Kanoto is getting cock-blocked by the truck, preventing him from overtaking Colony of Birchmen again. And while they're battling against each other, Fancy Wreck is managing to somewhat catch back up. And so, they make it into the temporary downhill as Colony of Birchmen successfully held off Julie Kanoto. In the meantime, Ferrari is actually managing to catch back up to Drip KA. And while Fancy Wreck is chilling on the podium spot, Julie Kanoto's 400R has actually been gapped by the truck. But that won't matter if neither of them are gonna make it across the upcoming jump. And so, as they drive over this checkpoint thingy, Colony of Birchmen now makes it to the scariest jump of the track. And luckily, she manages to survive it. And same goes for Julie Kanoto. While Fancy Rex Impreza is a little bouncy but manages to make it stick. And now the Crossbow R makes it to the jump, as it unfortunately loses control upon landing, but luckily not enough for it to spin out. While Drip KA makes it over the jump no problem, allowing him to catch back up to Arcadely a bit. And same goes for Ferrari, as he learns from his mistake on the jump. While Arcadely is trying to catch back up to Fancy Wreck while he still can. Although I have no idea whether or not he will succeed at that. In the meantime, Colony of Birchman makes it to the greatest jump of all time, as she is still managing to hold off Julie Kanoto. But as he makes it to this braking zone, he's had enough of being cock-blocked by the truck, and tries to pull an overtake on this corner. As for Fancy Wreck, I think at this point he pretty much just accepted the fact that he's placing third. And same goes for Arcadely, as it's pretty much impossible for him to catch back up. And in terms of Ferrari and Drip KA, we'll check back on how they're doing later. For now, let's focus on the intense battle between the truck and the 400R. As Colony of Birchman tries to catch back up on the downhill, but unfortunately for her, Julie Kanoto only zooms off on the downhill in question. And now they go across these final sets of corners, as the finishing order is pretty set in stone, unless Julie Kanoto fumbles up last minute, which I highly doubt will happen. And so, as a result of that very intense race, Julie Kanoto in the 400R makes it to the finish line in first, and Colony of Birchman takes second. And as the Impreza makes it to the finish line, Fancy Wreck manages to get a very needed third place, rounding out the podium. And luckily, the others were not able to catch up to the Crossbow R, allowing Arcadely to take fourth place for himself. Speaking of which, let's check back on Drip KA and Ferrari. And after all of that suspense, Ferrari has actually managed to catch back up. I'm impressed. But given that they've now already made it to the last section of the track, he's really gonna need an overtaking opportunity to go along with it. And so, let's see if he manages to find one on these two 180-degree corners. And as Drip KA makes it through the set corners, he is refusing to accept defeat. And so, as Ferrari makes it to the downhill section, he now only has one shot at overtaking Drip KA. But unfortunately for Ferrari, that one shot at overtaking was unsuccessful. But despite that, there still might be a last-second overtake which might happen. And so, they both make it through the last remaining corner of the track, as now it is only a matter of who makes it to the finish line first. And unfortunately for Ferrari, the 959 refuses to overtake, causing him to finish in last either way. That race had a very unpredictable outcome, but now it is time to determine the winner. In last place, actually there is no last place. Instead, there's a tie for 5th place between Ferrari and Arcadely, both with a total of 8 points. Even though you two didn't achieve much in the finale, still, congrats to you two for getting 5th place overall. And there's no 4th place either. Instead, a tie for 3rd place between Drip KA and Fancy Wreck, both with 9 points. Congrats to you both, Fancy Wreck for proving that you can indeed be competitive, and to Drip KA for being able to avenge all the fallen redemptionists. But now it is time to announce our winner, which is Julie Kanoto with a perfect score of 18 points. And even though Colony of Birchman only has 11 points, still, congrats to you two for being the runner-up. Either way, congratulations to you, Julie Kanoto, for winning this entire tournament, and special thanks to everybody else for participating. This really was a lot of fun for me to make. Anyways, thank you for watching the tournament, and thanks for all the support. It really means a lot to me. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.